Since we learned how to combine like terms last time using rational numbers, in this section the I can statement is I can distribute using rational numbers. So we're going through and learning how to do the same thing with rational numbers that we learned how to do with integers. So as a warm-up, let's simplify the following using the distributive properties. So again, I always like to draw these little arcing lines here just to remind me that I need to multiply this term on the outside with each one of those terms on the inside. So if there are two terms in here, I'm going to end up with two terms once I multiply. So when I multiply through, I have a positive times a negative, so that's a negative, and 4 times 5 would be 20. Slap that x on there. Positive 5 times a positive 10, so this is going to be a positive 50, and we're done right there. This one we've got some distributing and maybe some collecting like terms, but again I want you to notice, and this is why these lines can be helpful, we only distribute that negative 7 through to the things in parentheses, so these two terms right here, not the 15x and not the negative 2y. So when we distribute through here, we get negative 35x. When we multiply here, this is a negative times a negative. A lot of people miss that, so that's going to be a positive 7y. Then we don't distribute through here, so these just kind of repeat. I'm going to bring those down here. And then I'm going to collect like terms. I'm going to put these in order, okay, alphabetically. So if I combine the two of those, the difference there would be 20. The bigger one's negative, so this is negative 20x. And then I'm going to combine the two y terms. They have different signs, so again I'm going to find the difference. The difference is 5 and the bigger one's positive, so this is plus 5y. So there's our answer on that one. Again, good warm-up problem, just to remind you how distributing works with integers. So what I'd like you to do as we do these problems is please make sure you take a look at each one of these and figure out how to do it by hand. There are a lot of times where it's going to be easier and quicker if we just go through and we do it by hand rather than reaching for a calculator on everything. But again, as we talked about before, it's always a good idea to double check, especially if you've got the time and it's a test or a quiz or something like that. So good idea to keep our skills sharp here. I'm going to distribute through here. So this is going to be 5 halves times negative 3 halves x. I'm going to do a little bit of 2 fifths. Write that down correctly, 2 fifths. I'm going to do a little bit of cross cancellation, so I can cancel these here. So I end up with a negative 3/5 x. When I multiply through here, I've got, let's see, our 2 fifths and then 17 fifths. There's nothing to simplify, cross cancel or simplify here, so I end up with positive 34/25. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that. I am going to come back and take a look at, well, what would happen if we did this on a calculator and how long would that take? But before I do that, I'm going to go through and do this one right here. So I'm going to distribute through. So we've got a negative 4 times 9 halves y. Again, if there's a fraction in the problem, you might as well think of everything as a fraction. So I'm going to put that 4 over 1. That means I can cancel the 2 with the 4. 2 goes in here once, 2 goes in here twice. So we've got a negative 2 times 9, so that's going to be negative 18y. And let's see, when we multiply here, again, I'm going to think negative 4 over 1 times negative 13 over 4. So something interesting happens on both of these. The denominator canceled and we ended up with a whole number. The same thing's going to happen here because 4 goes into 4 once with each one of those. So we just need to make sure we've got a negative times a negative, so that's a positive 13. And then remember, we're not distributing through here, so this is just a negative 7y. Well, now we'll go ahead and collect the like terms here so that we can simplify this completely. So we get negative 25y plus 13, and there's our answer there. So let's check this on the calculator. Now I'm going to pull up that other screen. So we've got the calculator open on the screen, as you can see over here. And let's go ahead and let's do this first problem right here. Let's do that 2 fifths times negative 3 halves. So we're going to do the 2 fraction input fifths, and then we're going to times that by negative 3 fraction input 2. So we've got that problem in there, and let's see what we end up with. We end up with a negative 3/5 like we had before, and you've got to take care of that variable. You've got to keep track of that. The calculator won't do that for you. And then let's do the 2 fifths times 17 fifths. So let's see what we've got there. So if I clear this off, we're going to have 2 fraction input fifths, and then we're going to times that by 17 fraction input fifths. And so we've got the 1 and 9/25. So again, I'll have the calculator change that for me if we need. So we've got the 34/25. So we're in good shape there. Okay, let's do this next one. Let's see, so we had -4, so I'll go ahead and type that in, -4, and then we were multiplying that by 9/2, so we're going to hit times 9 fraction input halves and hit enter, and we get -18 just like we had there. Now I do want to show you one quick thing that we can do here. This next problem is going to be -4 times -13/4. So one thing I can do is I can hop up here and I can put in, well, this needs to be a negative, and then instead of entering it by hand, I can actually use the insert button right here. So I can actually insert a -13. So that INS is above the delete. There's the delete, and INS stands for insert. So I'm going to hit second and insert. And you'll notice that the cursor changed. It's now not blinking anymore. It's just showing that blank line. So I'm going to put in a 13. Like we need here, and then I'm going to change the 2 to a 4. Now on this particular one it didn't save me much time or anything like that, but I did just want you to be aware of how to insert things. So we've got the -4 times the -13/4, and we'll hit enter, and we end up with that +13, and then of course we just combine the like terms here and get the right answer. So we should be in good shape there. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot that out of the way and have this take up the full screen. And then we'll continue doing this, and I'll use the other calculator for this one. That's a little bit easier. So we want to simplify the following expressions using the distributive property. So again, I just like drawing those lines so that I can be clear on what's going on here. We need to do the 4.8 times the 2.1. When you get into multiplying decimals, it's probably not worth trying to do it in your head or by hand. So let's do 4.8 times 2.1. So we end up with 10.08. That sounds pretty reasonable there. So 10.08. Don't forget the b there. And then we've got to do the 4.8 times the -3.1. So we'll do 4.8 times -3.1. Again, I'm using the negative there. Make sure we keep track of that. So that's going to be negative 14.88. And we'll circle the answer there. And then the next one, we've got to distribute through here. So we're expecting a positive answer from this first one because it's a negative times a negative. So I'm going to do -8.7, and then we're going to times that by -8.9. So I've got the problem in there correctly. So that's going to be 77.43. So 77.43. Again, put the K on there. You've got to do that. And then I do want to show you on this one right here, we're going to be doing -8.7 times -3.7. So what I'm going to do on my calculator is I'm going to bring that last one up by hitting second enter. You on your calculator, you can probably just hit the up arrow. I'm going to go back here, and all I need to do is change this to a -3.7. So I'm going to type in a 3, change that to a 7. Hit enter, and there's our 32.19. So that's going to be plus 32.19. And then of course we've got that -1 right there. So now I can go ahead and I can write the 77.43K. That's part of the answer. I've got that one taken care of. And then I can just do a simple subtract 1 right here. So this is going to be plus 31.19. Whoops, 31.19. And there we go. So you should be in good shape for the assignment. Hopefully that all makes sense. I do want to point out one thing before I turn you loose on this, and that is we really needed a calculator in order to get these second two problems correct, to get example 2A and B correct. We really relied on the calculator. But you'll notice that when we were doing fractions here, the fractions weren't very hard to do and we got them right by hand. So hopefully you're practicing the fractions and that you're seeing they are pretty easy to work with, and even easy to work with by hand. So there you go.